The Blokebusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Pod Bros Network. You can find us as well as other fine shows such as The Guy Huddle, Language of Bromance, and Dave's Nerd Compendium at podbros.com and on Twitter at Podbros Network. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Blokebusters podcast.
Welcome to episode 56 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about The Martian. But first, let's get a little housekeeping out the way. Do follow us on Twitter at Blokebusters, Facebook.com/Blokebusters. You can email us, blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. And you can visit blokebusters.webs.com if you want to. We'd like it if you would. You know, it's just a little thing we have
Google
there.
Blokebusters and
yeah, chances are we'll be there.
Yeah.
Alright, so I think that was the quickest I've ever gone through that.
Absolutely, getting it down. Okay, it only took us 56 episodes.
I know.
Alright. How's this film doing financially, Paul?
Well, let's see. Directed by Ridley Scott with a production budget of $108 million. And 10 days after release, so you can probably guess when we're recording this, it has made worldwide $158,198,432 US dollars. And a little factoid for you here, it is the second biggest opening weekend in October to date at $54.3 million. Number one went to Gravity.
Huh, so we like space.
Yes, space. Space is the next frontier, again.
Yes, more importantly, we love solo dramas in space, I think.
Yeah. One person trapped in space.
Yes. Any more than that, Yeah. Alright,
so what is this film about?
Well, I will just use a handy-dandy website here.
Yeah.
During a manned mission to Mars, astronaut Mark Watney is presumed dead after a fierce storm and left behind by his crew. But Watney has survived and finds himself stranded and alone on the planet. With only meager supplies, he must draw upon his ingenuity, wit, and spirit to subsist and find a way to signal to Earth that he is alive. I would say that's pretty much half of a description of the film.
Yeah.
Because that is all within the first act.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
then, more importantly, trying to live to eventually get rescued.
Yeah. Now, this is based on a book called The Martian.
Andy Weir.
Yeah. Now, Brian, what would you say the book is about?
The book is about this dinosaur park and things go wrong. Oh, I think I might have read the wrong book.
Yes. Yeah, you need to check the covers next time.
I did not understand the translation into this film at all. But
if you want to have a little fun, go to the Wikipedia page for the film The Martian, read the plot synopsis, then go to the Wikipedia page for the book The Martian and read that synopsis and just play Spot the Difference.
Yeah, it's like those little pictures in Highlights magazine. Like, what is different? Good luck finding anything.
Which basically means I have not read the book and Brian is getting through the book.
I'm in the process, yeah.
But basically, that would say to me that this is one of the best adaptations they've probably done, just shortening all of the science stuff.
Yes, clearly, like I was telling you, some things need to be cut or condensed, or character traits need to be combined into one character.
Yeah,
because you just don't have time to flesh out all of the crew and things like that. But
a full book adaptation would probably come in at about 4 hours for most films.
Even though it is still pretty streamlined and still a pretty small book novel-wise. But, so far I think it's, I would think a very true adaptation.
All right. Well done those people then.
Yes.
Obviously, as we said, neither of us have finished the book, so we can't give a full
comment too much more. Yes, and this is a film podcast, not a book podcast.
Indeed. Maybe we'll do that in future. Probably not, but when we run out of films we want to see.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see who's in this. There's a lot of people in this, actually.
Just a few.
Yes. I've written down 5, and the reason I've written one of them down is because there's no way I'd be able to remember how to pronounce it.
Oh,
so,
it's easy. It's Matt Damon.
No,
Matt
Damon. There you go.
I can't believe.
Thank you, Team America. Well, please. So
but other than that, what one did you have trouble pronouncing?
So Mr. Damon is obviously Mark Watney, and then I've got Jessica Chastain as Melissa Lewis, who is the commander of the mission.
And they love space.
Yes, love space. Yeah.
They love being in space together.
Jeff Daniels as Teddy Sanders, the head of NASA. And Kristen Wiig as Annie Montrose. And the one that...
Public relations or, the media.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so the one that I'm sure you probably figured out that I would have trouble pronouncing... Chiwetel Ejiofor as
Bravo.
Thank you, yes, as Vincent Kapoor, and the reason I pronounce it that way is because that's the way that I found to pronounce it.
And that's the way I've heard it. Yeah, I just can't replicate it once I hear it.
Yeah,
it goes in, and then I can't get it to come out of my mouth correctly.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely looked up a pronunciation video for that one.
Well, good for you for going the extra mile.
Yes. All right, and I'm sure we'll come across the other people as we're talking about this film.
Yes, as we get into the nitty-gritty of the film. Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you have a place you would like to start off here?
Well, how about we go for the sort of overall feel for the film? Because the very first thing I wrote down for this is one of, if not the best paced film I have ever seen.
I could not. I know this is boring to you. I could not agree more. There is even what you would call the slow bits don't feel slow. Everything feels necessary. All the dialogue, all the exposition, none of it feels forced or dragging in any part. It carries through from the opening of the film to its conclusion.
There is nothing in the film that doesn't need to be in there. That doesn't happen a lot.
No, I need to look up. Yeah, I will come back with the editor. You just stall for me for a minute, but we'll talk a little bit.
It's definitely just one of those things that I'd heard good things about the film. I tried to hear as little as possible before I go and see it. I saw it yesterday, so it was one of those things that I was desperately avoiding all this. But I'd heard good things, and I went in and I came out just like that. There was no drop beat in it.
No. So yes, Pietro Scalia was the editor, and he did the film many of us love. Paul does not. Gladiator, a Ridley Scott joint. Right. He's worked with Matt Damon before with Good Will Hunting.
Oh, right.
More Ridley with Prometheus, Kick-Ass, and it goes on. But yeah, so excellent job, Pietro and Ridley. I'm sure Ridley was in the editing bay as well.
Oh yeah,
but that was one of the things that hit me immediately when the film was over. It was like there was not a single moment I was bored.
No, and another note I wrote down, which would sound like it's they've just kind of put that in there for a joke or something, but the whole music thing where he's just ripping on the fact that this person only has disco music. Yes. Like, it was only brought up, let's say, 3 times or something like that, and it just fantastically done each time. Like, it was an observation that he would have made, that I feel the character would have made, and you see him kind of getting into it at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, not a huge disco fan myself.
No, I'm not.
I would agree with Mr. Astronaut Mark Watney there, but so you might say, I hated the soundtrack, but I think the music was used very well in those scenes, and it didn't. Because normally when those kind of songs are used, it's a very annoying scene, but those were fun and sparingly used.
Yeah. I think what helped was he was showing how the audience was feeling when it comes to, if you don't like disco music, he hates disco music, so he was getting the frustrations out for you, and it was, I mean, granted, it's always fun to see someone struggling with something or being annoyed, and a lot of great stuff can come from that. But it was just so much fun to see that in there, and I don't know if you've reached a point in the book yet where that...
I'm very slow in the book, or very early on, I guess. He's just started growing his potatoes.
Okay.
And we're just now introducing kind of NASA in the book is where I'm at. So
alright, okay,
so not very far in.
Well, do let me know when you get to it, like if that music thing is in there, because if not, it's just a fantastic.
No, they
addition.
have mentioned that. Well, first thing they mentioned, when I know we're back on the book here, we'll get back to the film here in a sec, is that first thing that comes is she has terrible taste in television. So Commander Lewis has like Three's Company and Dukes of Hazzard or whatever, and he's watching these shows on a thumb drive on the laptop or whatever.
He was watching Happy Days in the film, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, I would say Happy Days is actually a good show. But...
well, no, I'm just saying.
But then also the disco music comes up. That
which is actually interesting. I didn't really think about it at the time. Was she the only one to bring any music of any kind?
Well,
that's what
according
it
to
like.
the film, the movie,
everyone else brought practical stuff, and she brought music.
Yeah, and he does say in the book, he's like, if you didn't want me to go through your stuff, you shouldn't have stranded me and left me for dead. So I'm going through your stuff. But I want to, whenever this opportunity presents itself, I must discuss this certain aspect of filmmaking, 3D. Why 3D? I didn't see this film in 3D.
No, I did not either, and I do think there is only one scene in the film where it could
would
possibly...
you wear these stupid glasses for 2 hours for one scene of some nuts and bolts floating around? Or maybe the conclusion with the ribbonness.
I will also grant that...
It's waste. Why are you forcing this on us?
The Martian landscape, I think, probably looks quite nice in the 3D. And I also think that when it comes to 3D, I think they try and give you the highest resolution possible for it. I do think that some regular screenings aren't like, let's say 4K. If we're going to go with resolution, I would imagine they are HD but not 4K, whereas the 3D has been treated so much that it has to be 4K to get that much out of it. I have no evidence to back this up, but that's what I feel like. The last 3D film I went to see versus the 2D film I saw after that, I did feel like a slight dip in the resolution there. But I do think that 3D was unnecessary.
There were so many dramatic scenes and just him, problem solving, engineering, sciencing the shit out of things, as he says. It's just a useless format where... The last film I did see in 3D was Gravity, where I felt that's a completely different situation there. And
that film, kind of like Avatar was built around the new technology that they were using and all that, and Gravity was built to be a 3D film, much like The Walk.
Yes, which I am excited to see in 3D, even though it's already gotten some mixed reviews, but... I think the 3D aspect will be worth it.
Exactly. It was pretty much designed to be a 3D film, whereas this was clearly we can release it in 3D.
I just had to voice my frustration of trying to get an extra $6 out of ticket buyers for no reason whatsoever.
That's fine.
I don't see how it can enhance your experience at all. This film is amazing the way it is.
And I would like to say that even though... large portions of it when you're seeing them on Mars, like they had to be totally effect shots. It's not that there's no one that went and took a photo of Mars and was like that. This is going to be the angle we're going to use or anything like that. But a lack of superfluous effect shots. That there was, they weren't in space for longer than they needed to be. Like you didn't see them floating around in space, probably because gravity would have done it way better than they would have. But I felt that they used the effects the right way in this, which is you don't really notice when they're using them.
Which is always come back to always the sign of a good effects team is they disappear.
Yeah,
into the film.
Like I think I was 2 hours into the film and I was thinking, I haven't noticed an effect shot. Like even though the ones where it's the rover going across
or
the Martian
obvious
landscape,
like launches, the rocket launches, or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, like the things that are entirely visual effects in the shot and there's nothing real in there, because of the setting, it worked, and they haven't done it better in one scene than they did in another scene. It
doesn't, like, where you notice, oh, wow, like, Jurassic World, like, where the dinosaurs just looked awful in some scenes and amazing in others. It was consistent throughout.
Yeah, so it was just really well done that way as well. Like, this, I think what we need to do is figure out who the directors and producers are on these films and somehow make sure that they're the only ones that make films from now on.
We need to, pass some legislation. Yes, all films must go through those core groups.
If this guy doesn't like the film, you're doing it wrong.
Yes, it should pass final inspection by this team. Yeah. Nope, sorry, no more Furious 8 or whatever, or Saw 10.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I mean.
Exactly. I wanted to jump to the use of the GoPros and the cameras in general in the movie, and just kind of as a way into this, kind of comparing them. For me, they were like Wilson in Castaway. They were his like kind of friend, even though. I mean, Castaway, he was completely isolated and had zero communication with the outside world.
Yeah.
And for the initial, first act of this film, he doesn't really have any communication, but he is able to then talk with NASA. So that takes down a little on the loneliness factor. Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that he didn't call either that little scuttle thing that went round or the rover itself Wilson, just as like a thing there, because it seemed like what he would do.
But the use of the cameras and in the book journaling, I just thought it was very well done. Just his gallows humor and about his situation, his kind of cockiness a little bit to an extent. I just thought it was a great way to experience what he was going through. And for him, probably, if you are in that situation, very therapeutic to actually talk about it, voice your opinions, and not just internalize all day.
Well, and could you also imagine going for days on end not speaking? Like, what would that do to you?
He's not in constant communication with. He is on Mars, and
and there is no audio communication. There's just typing and stuff. So
to actually hear your voice, and even if it's yourself hearing the sound of a human voice, But I just thought that the way it was shot was so great. Just the rover cameras and the cameras in the hab. Just, very authentic. It felt like, hab kitchen, hab bunks, just every location he was in. I don't know. I thought it was wonderfully shot.
Yeah. And I did wonder as well, like, was he doing that again just to leave it for the next person to land? Was he ever planning on taking it with him? Because I think in the end he does just leave it all there, so it'll be like 20 years later when NASA receives it, and they're like, "Oh, this is what he was going on about."
Well, in the book, he just assumes he's going to die, and someone will find this in 100 years or whatever, and they'll know. And it's about self-preservation. Like you want your life to mean something, so you record it.
Now, I do have to say that the trailer for this film, and then watching the actual film, they did what I want as many trailers as possible to do, which is using alternate takes for one and then the other. It was so nice. Even if I knew it was coming, it was just a little different. It wasn't exactly what I remembered. And that was excellent. And there was one point where he's talking about something, and in the trailer, it's as if he's talking about it to himself on Mars, and then in the film it's him talking to those students right at the end. That's actually where the audio is from.
That was a nice little twist there, in editing.
So it just, I think basically what I'm saying is I want the team that made this to make film trailers and stuff in future.
Yeah, there was no like giant reveals like, oh, you showed us the ending or the conclusion without us realizing, like, oh my god, this is going to be the ending now.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. Because there are, obviously, as with any of our episodes, all spoiler casts. You should know that by now if you're new to it. But
yeah, you really should.
I'm just saying
know
that every once in a while in case this is your first time with us. But like for instance, like the food or the supply probe explosion.
Yeah,
like that. Any other person that might have been in the trailer and been that really, even though an astute film observer might see that scene coming, that would still take a lot of the punch away of that happening.
And also, if this were, I think, most regular Hollywood film, they would have shown you a half a second clip of the hab exploding. Mm-hmm. And so you would have seen that and gone, oh, well, like, even though it was just a little clip, you would have thought, okay, well, that's going to happen.
Yeah, and your brain would be occupied wondering when that's going to occur, not paying attention to what's on the screen right now.
Yeah, and it was actually a little fun to see in the film the point where that happens. They literally do someone saying, as long as nothing goes wrong, and then cut straight to it. It was almost as if they were making fun of other films.
See, I like that. I mean, I thought that was a great little trope nod, and I didn't mind that at all. I thought that was perfect. Like, well, cue something goes wrong. That you can tell that was in parentheses in the script, or like something shit's about to go down.
Yeah, I get the feeling that in the actual script for it, there was a giant thing: just do not change the order of this.
I think that's probably. I'm just speculating here. What we're talking about is probably the just pedigree and respect that Ridley Scott has earned in the industry. I know he's a very, from what I've heard, very demanding director, knows what he wants on screen, and
well, I think if you're going to be one of the greats, you need to have that to some extent. There needs to be, you have this visual thing that you want to get out, and the only way that can happen is if you make sure it happens. So
yeah. And I will say, even though this is the first Ridley film I've enjoyed in a long time, even though he's still, I would put him in the Mount Rushmore of directors for me. But first, probably since American Gangster. I know Prometheus has its fans. I'm not really among them.
No, it was something was off with that one. Yeah,
but there were just a lot that I haven't really connected with, or been a huge fan of recently. In what was it, like Kingdom of Heaven, or Gods and Kings? That was the Christian Bale one.
Oh yeah,
and the Counselor, which was just a mess. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
No.
They just threw a bunch of star power at it and forgot to make a script.
Yeah, I
the
think
Robin Hood remake. That
one passed me by.
So and then like Body of Lies, which was But so in the 2000s, I haven't really it's been like Gladiator and American Gangster pretty much for me, and now The Martian.
Yeah,
it's clearly at that list.
I do think that Ridley Scott is one of those people that I was never, it's a Ridley Scott, I'm going to go and see it. Mm-hmm. And so that did actually mean that I missed out on a large chunk of his directorial stuff. Well, but
I'm always piqued when I hear it's a Ridley Scott film. Like, they got him to attach. Okay. Like, that's why I'm interested in this next Alien film.
Yeah.
Because he's on board.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I think that'll be the mark of exactly how good he is if you're able to go back to Alien and it turns out to be good. Like if
I'm crossing my fingers very tightly for that. I would love nothing more than that franchise to be restored to its former greatness.
Yeah, and maybe what can happen is they're in this galaxy and they're on a spaceship, and you just see you just see the Mark Watney thing around Mars happening out of a window as they go by. Like, somehow connect the two.
Have you seen the? I wouldn't really call it a meme. Just a picture of the Martian with Mark Watney in the foreground and Marvin the Martian in the background.
I have not. No.
It's like, and
that would be the Martian.
Pretty good job because he's got an accurate shadow to him. Yeah. And I commented on the person that posted it. Said, "Yeah, and I can't believe I missed that Easter egg. I've seen the film twice and I didn't notice that." But
yeah, I do believe that would be the Martian.
I can't do it, Marvin Martian. But anything you want to jump to? I got a few things, but we can go to you.
The only other real note that I put down was I felt that every single character in this film was believable, an actual person, like reacting the way that I feel a lot of people would react in these things.
Yes, that is. I can tie that into something I had because there were no extraneous roles. I don't think we're kind of back to the editing, like no character that would think, oh, why the heck are they even in this? Everyone felt like they served a purpose. Yeah. And I had realism written down. I felt like every situation was handled authentically and the characters felt like real people to me.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you got the Jeff Daniels character. He is acting the very way you would expect the head of this organization to act. I mean, clearly he's trying to get him back, but he's not going to.
To his credit, like that, I think is the right call. Is this space program has to be bigger than one person. Yeah. But the morality side of you says, no, we still have to do everything we can to save him. Exactly. And that's the Sean Bean side. Yeah. Yeah. And eventually more than cost him his job because there's a different one, spoiler, at the in the next launch, and there's someone else that is Sean Bean's job. So he's clearly gone.
Well, yeah, and you saw him in this other role, like a trainer or some description, I guess. Right at the end there, which I like that. There's a line where it says, "I expect your resignation." In most films, it would have been like, you know what, like he'll hand it in, and the guy will say, like, "Yeah, I don't accept it." Like, no, he handed in his resignation. He has left. He's doing something else now. Again, like anyone actually would do. Yes. If your boss tells you hand in your resignation and you don't do it, you will be fired.
Agreed. You resign, you can resign or you get fired. You want pension or not? I don't know. But maybe we should keep on the Sean Bean train here for just a minute. Lover myself of Sean Bean. I think you probably are as well. Can we talk about what I thought was... There are a lot of funny moments in this film, but probably having seen this film twice already, the one that I was just waiting for the second time around and smiling the whole time would be the very self-aware, almost meta scene of his description of the Council of Elrond. Yes. How did you enjoy that?
That was fun. I just love that scene in general because, like, for instance, the guy that
Sean
named
Bean
it
to be the one describing it.
Yeah. But it's like the guy that named it. Like, to be fair, most people would say nerd. And it's not a shock in the slightest that this is what he would have come up with. And then I love that everybody in the room except for Kristen Wiig's character knew exactly what was going on.
Just like, I forget what her quippy comment is, but
there is one point where she's just like, well, what is it? And then they start talking and she's just like, I hate you all. I hate every single one of you.
But for Sean Bean to be the one that gives the description, noting that Boromir was the only one that wanted to utilize the One Ring, and not destroy it. For him to, oh my god, I thought it was hilarious.
That was lovely. I'm sure that the second that was in the script, they were like, we need to get,
and that could have been really sloppily handled and just been really beat you over the head with it, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was still serving the plot of the movie, and it wasn't like joke after. It wasn't real jokey. You know, it was just a description. Okay,
I think
a little wink and a nod, and move on.
The only way it could have been more meta would have been if somewhere in that room was a Lord of the Rings poster or something like. So when it cuts back to him, he's just moved in front of it, just like and he's standing in front of the Boromir on the poster.
Oh my god, yeah, just a little over the head, but yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like they could have gone that way if they were going campy, which they didn't, and and then it was just lovely writing. Actually, that's something about this film that I want to say. I didn't write it down, but like just the writing was like, along with the pacing, like it was just so well written for all of these.
Yeah, there were no groaners, as I would call them, like lines where you just like really. Like,
yeah. I mean, there might have been a bit where like they might have written it to be a groaner, but it wasn't like, oh god, that was just
there was
terrible.
no him looking at camera, Houston, we have a problem, or anything like, just I'd be like, F you, like, I'm liking this movie, why did you do that? But there was nothing like that.
Yeah. Although one thing I found odd is, what was the rating for this film? PG-13? Obviously the American rating.
PG-13, yes.
There was a surprising amount of swearing in this.
I believe, and they use, I believe, just the only one F word, right?
No, they use several.
Multiple?
Yeah,
because typically you only get the one. So I don't know, because he uses that like right away, like when he's wakes up and
there's several uses of him saying it. There's more uses of him saying it, you just don't hear it. And then there's obviously the typing where it's F da 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 like that, and it's...
Yes, you're talking to the whole world. Oh, really? Yeah.
But the bit where he says it but you don't hear it, like when he asked about how the people responded when it was live, and then it's just outside the rover as he's just going, what the fuck? What the fuck? But you can't hear it.
They did get away with quite a bit. I feel like.
For that rating, I mean, I don't know what it was in the UK. Mm-hmm. I would imagine a 12A, given the amount of swearing in it, unless they're as even with going to see it, because there was nothing in it aside from the swearing that I think kids shouldn't see.
No, I will go back to not maybe one of the first scenes. Maybe, I don't know. As an adult, I was a little uncomfortable. His initial struggle to survive, i.e., meaning his wound, and that whole scene.
You have an issue with that?
No. Don't jump here.
Okay, it seemed like that's where you were going.
A young kid, that might be a bit much. But I thought that was handled really well, as far as just, okay, he wakes up, alarm's going off, okay, there's a projectile in me, I have to, and immediately start problem solving, like where he says in the, the end of the film, start working the problem. And
one at a time.
Gets the suit off and, yanks that thing out of there and starts, doing the self-surgery.
I'll say
I mean, it could have been bloodier. It wasn't too graphic, but I was a little, pleasantly uncomfortable. Right. I will say
that thing where you're sitting there just like, ooh, I really don't want that to happen.
My knees are getting a little tight and weak, and I'm like,
you just slightly rub your side.
And he's doing the staples, and and he's clearly in some serious pain.
I honestly didn't know where they were going to go, because he pulls the thing out and it's like, okay, there's something in there, so he goes in and gets the thing out, and you see him like
trying to match it up.
I honestly thought for a second they were going to have him go roll the eye, put it in, and then go back.
There's a little bit missing.
Which I imagine he knows exactly what it looked like. He's probably the one that put it there in the first place, even though he was a botanist. But I did like that it was just the one, and then again, they didn't prolong the scene any longer than it needed to be. It was, okay, this is done, on to the next thing. So it's kind of like they followed their own advice, really. Like, just one problem, on to the next one.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really touched on a whole lot in the film. The book definitely brings it up that everyone has two specialties in the crew.
Okay.
It's botany, and he was also a engineer.
That would explain a lot.
Yes, yeah, which I felt like should have been touched on in the film, because how does a botanist know how to do all of these chemical reactions and problem-solving skills?
Willing to go with that at NASA you get general engineering training just in case things happen and you need to be the one to do a quick botch fix thing. But
I'm blanking on the exact one, and right now, and people can correct me. It was either like chemical engineer or something along those lines,
right?
Where he obviously is a very intelligent person, has 2 PhDs, or so that kind of helped me make the leap of how he could solve all of these problems.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I mean, I think it probably came to like streamlining the film is that everyone on the crew has one specific function, and that's the one they were focusing on. So obviously, him being the botanist, and then you had the chemist was the Russian guy, and
of course the Russian guy. Let's just villainize the Russians some more.
Well,
the bomb makers.
All right, favorite Russian in space then? The guy from this one?
From Armageddon.
There we go. That's what I was going for.
This is how we fix things on a Russian space station.
Now we go home.
Yes, obviously. No brainer. No brainer there.
All right.
There's so many scenes I want to talk about with this movie. Like I like that first when they leave him behind, and how the camera goes from each crew member to each crew member, and then the empty seat.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful scene of the shadows moving up the seat, and just the reality of that situation.
Yeah.
I just loved that scene.
Yeah, it was really well done, and even though you know for a fact that he is still alive because there's no film if he isn't. It was still just a really great scene that was nice to see and made you feel what they must be feeling.
Yes, like you're, and especially Commander Lewis, who's essentially the mother. She's responsible for these children, her children, and it's touched on multiple times in the film that the weight she must feel. Thinking she essentially killed him or, left him for dead. Yeah. It is beautiful.
Yeah, and it is one of those things that, you watching the film and then you see, we've lost total signal from this suit. There's no way we can find him with any of the equipment we have. It's like, I was thinking at that point, if you genuinely have no way of finding him, that rocket is going to leave in the next 2 minutes. If you're not on board, you've ordered them to leave. What would you do? Would you keep searching, or would you try and make sure that the other 5 or the other 4 get home safely? I don't.
I mean, you have to. She made the right call. His sensors said he was offline, and they saw him get struck with and I think it's the other astronaut that doesn't really fleshed out a whole lot. Sebastian Stan, Chris Beck. I believe he's the one that says, Mark's dead, or our friend is dead, or let's go, he's dead.
And that was a great thing where it was like, he's dead, we gotta go, and they're like, how can you say that? It's like, my friend just died, but we need to get out of here.
Or we're all gonna be dead with him. There's a million examples of that when he first makes contact with the Hermes crew, when he's allowed to talk to them, and Martinez, who amazingly played by Michael Pena, extremely likable and funny.
Not quite as, let's say, cartoonish, shall we say, as him in Ant-Man, but still has that just chipper aspect to him. Like I said, extremely likable, and just like the kind of, even though it's a very emotional moment, the joking around you would do with people you've trained with for months and months, and
your true friends. Like, yeah, we're kind of happy you're gone. A lot more room here.
Yeah.
Who needs a botanist in it? You're not a real scientist.
Yeah.
So, and kind of the guy thing too. Can't emit too much emotion.
No, yeah, you got to have some humor in there.
Yeah, just example after example. But I mean, just Matt Damon killed it, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think
are
possibly
you
my
expecting-
my
Go ahead.
favorite Matt Damon role to date. I think, even though he was fantastic in Good Will Hunting and all that, like I think
talented Mr. Ripley is up there for me. He is so good in that movie.
fair enough. I think I enjoyed this role the most out of all.
I would say it's the freshest, so maybe that's why I'm saying it. But I don't know. I know there's already like Oscar pooling, and so everyone says the spots are filled already. But I think there's room for him. Just because, I mean, the performance is great. It's maybe not best actor great, but he is the movie for so much of it.
Yeah, let's say I'll say nomination, but
Not
I
a win,
wouldn't
no.
assume he would win.
No.
I'll go with you for that then.
Yes, I would say the last two films we've done should be nominations, but not wins.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp is Whitey Bulger.
Yeah.
And correction, yes, I'm aware of why the Black Mass was not called Whitey, because that is the name of the documentary.
Yes.
So yes, Corrections Department, thank you. I have since watched that documentary. Excellent, by the way.
All right.
Very well done. But yes, that is why that film was called Whitey, because it was already taken.
I see.
But yes, great performances there. I will say this is a tiny nitpick, and it's a movie trope in any of these kind of successful mission control type things or victories. The relegatory paper tossing. Do you know how much cleanup you're going to have afterwards?
Yeah.
How much? You're never going to get that in the right order again.
Yeah.
You're NASA. Like, keep your composure for a second.
Yeah. I'll say the guy comes on just like, you do realize that that's what they need to get home, right?
Yeah, you just threw out like my calculations that took me 4 hours, and now I can't find them. Yeah, and they're in the wrong order.
Although I kind of like to think that for situations where like they're really hoping for this to go well, they just have a pile of blank paper,
Just copy paper that's sitting.
just go hooray.
Like, oh yeah, there's just someone that's their job is like the janitor. Just this is gonna go well here. Yes.
I'm almost willing to bet that is a NASA thing. Like it happened. Let's say Apollo 13. It happened then, and now it's a thing that they do every single time. Like someone throws the paper. That's their role, is paper thrower.
I just imagine like the Sean Bean character where they're like, "What the fuck, guys? Like, you're all staying until this is cleaned up." I don't care that we just had this success. You're staying.
Or you just see a quick shot of it just floating down the phone, just like, get out of here. I'm sick of this paper.
People yelling in the background, "Ow, paper cut! Ow, paper cut in my eye!" Yeah.
Someone makes a paper airplane, throws it back at the guy.
Yeah. At least they're not throwing coffee mugs or anything. That's better. But
yeah, well, may as well have a couple of Stetsons in there as well. Whee!
I guess that's a good place to go to. How did you feel about the supporting NASA folk, i.e., Donald Glover, even the astrodynamics? Sorry.
Yes.
And what was it? Mackenzie Davis, is that her name?
Yes, Mackenzie Davis as Mindy Park.
Yeah, Mindy Park, head of SATCOMs.
Yeah, and I was talking to Brian ahead of the time before we recorded here that there were a lot of people complaining that Mindy Park was written as a Korean American, and yet they didn't get someone to play that, and that Chiwetel Ejiofor plays a guy that is basically Indian American in the book, but the authors come out and said that in both cases he wrote Mindy thinking of Korean but didn't write her as specifically Korean, so he had no problem there, and he also has no problem with Ejiofor playing the Kapoor character, because he says like he is American. He might be of Indian descent, but he is American. There's no reason why.
Yeah. Long story short, relax.
Yeah. I mean, there are some situations where I'll grant you there is what is considered the whitewashing of the film. Like that does happen. However, like this wasn't the case here. It's not like they didn't have any people of other racial descent in the film.
There was, Benedict Wong, who was amazing as the JPL guy, Bruce Eng. I'm not sure if I'm getting the last name correct, but yeah, he was great. And then Donald Glover, of course.
Yeah, there's just great ensemble, loads of different people in it, and it was like I don't understand why the criticism was aimed at this one. I mean, maybe again, I haven't read the book, and you aren't that far into the book, so you can't comment on whether or not you feel it was a miscasting. But if the author is fine with it, I don't know why. Why other people were.
Yeah, and was it Chiwetel? I'm sorry.
Chiwetel.
Chiwetel. I mean, he's amazing in anything he does. So I'm just happy to see him in anything. I did want to briefly mention Kate Mara, who I really enjoyed in this, and I'm happy to see a little redemption for her since the fantastic flop.
Yeah.
I'm hoping the same for Michael B. Jordan in Creed. I'm hoping that's good, or at least he's good in it, because he's a really great actor.
I do think
I want to see them all do well.
Yeah, we know that they're good.
Yes.
It was just
I can't get over it, Paul. I can't get over that movie. Oh my god. But yes. Yeah, so I was happy to. I mean, she's still playing the bit parts. I want to see her in bigger roles because I do think she's talented. But yeah, she was. Her scenes, I think, were really good. Once again, like going back to no extraneous roles or no needless scenes.
No, and a romance that didn't take up any more than it needed to.
Exactly, like okay, it's clear they kind of like each other, and then. Very clear at the end of the movie they like each other, or they better, because they're responsible for another life now.
Exactly. There is one look at the very beginning of the film. There is a point where she kisses the guy on the helmet, and that is not a euphemism. And then,
well played, sir.
There you go. I think a lot of people saw that coming, by the way, but there we go.
I still enjoyed it.
And then the third scene, which is in the credits, when they have a kid now.
Yeah, they're in the hospital with their newborn. Yeah.
That is the extent of the romance.
That's how you do a romance and a drama story. If it's a romance movie, fine. But yes, it didn't take up more time, like you said, than it needed to. Yeah.
To be fair, I would have liked it if more romantic comedy decided to go down that route. Like, let's just stick with the comedy and then...
To that end, I mean, this is another tiny, tiny gripe. I would like to have known a little bit more about Watney. His... situation or I do his backstory a bit.
Yeah, it was one of those things that obviously his story within the film is the fact that he's stuck on Mars and surviving. But yeah, we didn't really see any of his life that he's trying to get back to.
I mean, does he have someone at home? Clearly, I mean, it's alluded to that he has some pretty good parents.
Yeah.
Or at least he feels like he has a positive relationship with his parents.
Yeah.
When he, at least that at least for me, emotional scene where he's preparing for his possible death.
Yeah.
And, tells Commander Lewis, thank them for being my mom and dad. And I'm like, ugh. Not gross, but like, I need a tissue.
well, I mean, it was that, but also just saying, tell them that I had fun and how the mission went.
What before. I love to do, yeah.
Which, I guess that's all you really would want. Rather than the whole asphyxiating in space type thing.
Let's not focus on that.
Let's not focus on how he died, rather how he lived.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think they brought it up in the movie, but he definitely had a plan, or has a plan in the book if things don't go well. Like, he's not going to starve to death. He's clearly not going to let that happen. Like, I don't know if he has I would assume NASA would give them like cyanide pills or something, or some sort of out, so you don't have to suffer.
Well, I mean, I got the feeling watching it that let's say that he does have a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he knows enough that he would be able to do a quick death.
Yeah.
And they just didn't bother showing him planning that, just because I was actually thinking about it a little bit during the film. They're not going to have a gun. So nothing quite like that.
Space they usually don't work out well.
Yeah, and he's
like fire,
as we saw. With fantastic scene, yes. I must say, just how. Yep. So I blew myself up
a little, Wile E. Coyote-ish, but
but I mean, yep, that would have happened. I'm all for that.
In his ears and loosening his jaw.
Yeah, but I got the feeling that the way that he would have done it would have been some sort of chemical thing, probably, and they probably didn't want to broadcast exactly how to do that.
Well, in the book it's simple. He knows what a lethal dose of some of the medication that's behind.
There you go.
Vicodin or whatever. He knows that what would be enough to, he's like, I do not plan on starving to death.
Yeah.
If it goes that route.
So I always figured he had a, as we say, backup plan, but I also was fine with them not showing the fact that he had a backup plan. Not quite the. I don't know if you'll have seen this one, Space Cowboys.
I have.
The Tommy Lee Jones.
Geriatrics in space, yes.
Yeah, it's the Tommy Lee Jones thing of like, well, I have cancer, so how about we just land me on the moon? Let's go with that. Not quite
not
that
my
level.
Favorite of these space adventures. It has its moments, I suppose. But
I was thinking.
Unlikable.
I was thinking the other day. I kind of want to rewatch it just to see if it's as okay as I remember. I'm sure it's actually worse than I remember, but
it's not the greatest.
I think at the time I saw it, it was just, oh look, it's Kay and Clint Eastwood in a film. Okay, let's do that.
Exactly. I don't know. Should we? I think probably get to final thoughts here.
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, I don't really have anything extra to mention, but I will just reiterate, just the pacing and the writing in this film is just fantastic.
It is one of the most well-paced films I've ever seen.
Yeah, I cannot say enough good things about those aspects. It's something that made me realize how bad it is in other films.
It's one of those things where you're really going to notice it after seeing this, is like all of the needless scenes or throwaway lines or scenes that go on for too long.
Yeah.
Or just poor editing. Like some of my issues with Black Mass. Still a great movie.
Still good.
Just weird editing choices. There was none of that in this. So sorry to interrupt you on your thing, but I can't say it enough.
As I was saying, that there's just nothing in that respect that was bad from this film. So, what about you?
Once again, the thing that stood out for me was Matt Damon, of course. The supporting roles not feeling needless. And I mean, obviously, I echo your sentiment, so I'm not going to repeat the same things there. But I feel the same way on all that.
I was talking to my wife actually about, like, obviously Matt Damon playing an astronaut, and she said something along the lines of, obviously he's had practice, like Interstellar.
Well, Jessica Chastain as well.
But they've had some practice with the.
I liked him much more in this than the insane astronaut. Trying to kill people.
Yeah, he definitely played two polar opposites now.
Yes, but what struck me was just his will to survive. I don't know that all of us are that strong. I know it's written that way, but
I do. I think it's a very fine line, because obviously everyone, with the exception of suicidal people, want to live, and so there would be that there. But like, just his constant drive, that's not something everyone has. So,
No,
yeah.
I mean, because knowing, even if, like you said, you make contact and you get rescued, it's going to be years.
Yeah.
Do you have that constitution to survive that long, even if there are no issues?
Yeah, I mean...
to make it that long.
And you would know, like, at the end, you would be very Benjamin Button-esque as he was. So...
I didn't wonder why he decided to grow a beard. He did have the clippers. Why didn't he keep himself trimmed up? But
well, I think it's obvious he wouldn't have quite had the call me, what was it, blonde beard or something right at the end.
When he started to go a little crazy space pirate.
Yeah. Which, again, another fantastic, just little bit, just like, technically, I am a space pirate.
And then the call back to it, he explained it to us.
Yeah. Again, fantastic writing. Well, technically it is. Yep, we covered that.
Yeah, like, we don't need to go over it again. Yep. That just struck me as the preciousness of life that this film portrayed, and how every life is important, and how the world, not just the United States, came together for this man.
Yeah. I mean, I will argue that I do feel that not the entire world would probably get behind that.
No. But
they did,
like the Chinese giving the help and essentially setting their space program back forever. How long? By helping.
Well, at the very least, making it so that they would definitely not be the front runners in the future, which I genuinely don't know which way that would go if they would do that. I'd like to think they would, but that doesn't mean they would.
I'd like to think we would too, but I don't know either. But I just, just completely all the way around. Like, I wrote down, the things I mentioned that I took a tiny issue with aren't enough for me to call them flaws.
No.
So, coming in,
I want to hear you ready now. I want to know.
Well, I kind of want you to go first.
No, I went first last time.
I
this
know
one's
you did.
all
I was
you.
hoping... Okay, are you... Alright, so my rating.
Okay, alright, now, if you really want me to go first, I will.
But, I suppose I will. Since it's... Yeah.
I mean, I'll go first. I kind of feel like I should now. I don't...
Are you going to give an unprecedented rating?
Not totally unprecedented,
okay.
but...
Alright, well then I think you should go first.
Alright. Given how much you've heard me rave about this, and I had no issue with any of the casting. There was very little I could find wrong with this film, and I genuinely do feel that it's up there with the other film I'm about to give this rating of. But I was. So you heard me.
My guess.
You heard me talking about
down
this.
my guess.
You heard me talking about this, and like you heard my feelings on some of these things. And at a stretch, there's really nothing I could find wrong with it. With the possible exception of there were some of the effect shots where it was just kind of like, this is just like, okay, it's just a long shot of a really long shot. So it's like, are you trying to hide some of this effect in here? But yeah, I had to come in. There's no way I can get around it. I had to come in at minus 0.1. Yep, he's got it.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a... All right, yes, that is what I predicted for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how much I enjoyed this film, really. I mean, I don't think I can call it perfect, but it damn near it. And just in case you're unaware, the last time I gave that rating was Lincoln. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up Lincoln as well in my final review here.
So, yeah, what
So,
was
Lincoln
yours?
was, yes, we both gave minus 0.1
We
to
did.
Lincoln. Once again, real quick, if you're first time, we every film starts out with a perfect 0, and we deduct points off for any arbitrary or subjective things, objective things,
as
performances.
As you could tell, to start with, it's only a teeny tiny thing taken
and
away.
And then we get into larger, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, all the way down to minus 10 would be completely horrible. And then we have made amendments to that for extra horrible films. But
do go listen to the Mordecai to hear what Brian's is for that.
I made up a new number.
As it were.
Yes. So Lincoln, we both came in at minus 0.1. My only issue with that film was the ending. I felt they should have ended, I'll say again, on the silhouette of him walking out of the White House. We all know the rest of the story.
No, yeah.
We don't need to see that scene.
I think I said at the time, I'd be absolutely fine with you seeing him slowly walking and then like do a quick cut to President's been shot, and then cut back to him walking a bit more with a bit more of him talking and like back and forth, and then end on him gone.
See, I think I even said at the time it felt like studio notes. Like, no, we need this to be more well-rounded, more of a button on it. More, we have to have everything concluded. But anyone that's ever gone through 4 years of schooling in their life knows how the rest of that story goes.
Yeah.
So that was my only tiny gripe with that film. And I only bring that back up because I do not have that gripe with this film.
Okay.
There is nothing, like I said, that I would call a flaw. Like, the paper toss is just a movie trope. It gets a pass. A couple of the comic lines weren't as funny as I thought they would be, but still, nothing I'm calling a flaw. The little, like I said, Wile E. Coyote with his head smoking and ears ringing could be a little cheesy. Still didn't mind it. That being said, I have no choice. This film, I think, is perfect in every way, and I am giving this a minus 0.0.
All right.
The first ever, and the first time I watched this film, I was debating on that rating, and I'm like, it's a film one. I'm like, it's probably a minus 0.1. And then it concluded, and then I was back out to minus 0. And then I saw it again, and I'm like, well, it's not going to be as enjoyable the second time.
Yeah,
Wrong. It is as enjoyable the second time around. And I thought I looked for things that annoyed me or bothered me or I thought could have been done better. And I came up with a blank.
Yeah.
I know it's crazy to call anything perfect. I think I probably said I never would.
Yep.
But that's what I'm going with right now.
I'm genuinely racking my brains right now for the reason why I did give it a minus 0.1. It was almost as if like I felt like I couldn't,
or is it just the concept of perfection?
No, it's like, I think my issue that I'm trifling with is 0 being the very idea of perfection, and upon thinking about it now, it is 0 isn't necessarily perfection, but it is no flaws that we could find. And you know what? Yeah,
you're good. I've talked you into it.
I agree with you. I found nothing wrong with this film. This film,
it's a perfectly told narrative. It's perfectly
brilliant.
told.
It almost, this film now needs to be something shown in film studies classes.
This is how you tell a compelling narrative.
This is great writing. This is great pacing. There's
it
nothing
should be shown to actors. This is great acting.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that there was phenomenal acting like Daniel Day-Lewis as Lincoln.
No, he's an alien. We cannot act like
exactly.
Alien
but yeah, every role was, I would say, very well cast, and they pulled it off. Like it just. Yeah.
So we have a change in ratings.
Yeah, this is genuinely a film that I found nothing wrong with. You found nothing wrong with. I definitely amend my. I did say minus 0.1 just because I felt like maybe there was something in there I missed, but no.
And don't come at me. I know you said we appreciate feedback, and we do.
Yeah.
But don't come at me with flaws being the book. This is a separate medium. I'm tired of people comparing negatively.
No, yeah, what we are doing...
Things need to change for that respective medium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, go to the Wikipedia page, seriously.
Yeah.
But what we are doing is reviewing the film as a body of work.
Yes.
Not as an adaptation. Now, if you want to hear adaptation work, please do go listen to our Ender's Game review, because that I think was our best discussion on adaptation and whether or not we felt it was as good. But this
spoiler,
is...
no.
Although I think I've said before, I do want to go and watch it again because I think I felt less
I spent
animosity towards it. But yeah, I think the reason we're still going on about this is like we do want you to understand, like, we found nothing wrong with this film. I'm sure other people will disagree. fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But this is our podcast. So...
Yes, so we control it, and yes, we say it's perfect.
Yes. Or at the very least, we found no flaws with it.
I'm sorry. Yes, sorry to put words in your mouth. I say it's perfect. Paul says no flaws.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I would say, just because it's my absolute favourite film, I would say that The Shawshank Redemption is perfect, and this is bloody close. Mm-hmm. Like, in terms of how I feel about the film, but in terms of critically looking at this, like, this was a masterclass.
It is, and it's one I look forward to seeing a third time.
Yeah, I
would have squeaked another one in if I had schedule permitted this week, but I couldn't find time to see it again.
No, this is one of those films that I want at home on my shelf. Like, I want to be able to just pull this out and watch this again. I'm sure my wife will disagree, but I'm going to get it.
And I thought, when I first heard of this, it's just going to be Apollo 13, but just the third act of them trying to problem solve, that's going to be incredibly boring in parts.
Well, that's
on the surface sounds like, so he's just going to figure stuff out.
That's how the book was sold to me. That, that scene where they're trying to make a rebreather so that they can live?
Yeah, put a
the
square
book is
peg
that.
in a round hole. Yeah. Uh-huh.
But, and I genuinely had nothing else to add to
at this
point.
It just exceeded expectations. And, definitely... probably my favorite space film right now. At least realistic portrayal. Okay. So not Guardians of the Galaxy, not Star Wars or things like that.
No, yeah.
First realism.
In terms of enjoyable space film, this is definitely my favorite. In terms of like spectacle, it's still got to go with Gravity. But this film wasn't trying to be Gravity.
No, it wasn't. Yes, it was more the internalization, the character struggle than the visual feast that was Gravity.
Look at this.
Look at the majesty of our universe. Yeah.
All right.
I think we could keep going on, but we won't.
Yes, we definitely need to let the good people go.
Yes.
All right. Well, please do get a hold of us on Twitter, Facebook, email, at Blokebusters, Facebook.com/Blokebusters or blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. There is no S at the end of Blokebusters for that, in case you're tripping up on that. I want to hear everything. I want to hear you guys ripping into us. Like, how can you make it better? I want to hear you guys saying, we agree.
Yes, I'd love to hear that. But if you had issues, what were they?
I'm willing to overturn it if someone is able to.
Oh no, I'm not.
If someone is able to
make a compelling argument.
Make a proper argument and not just this film sucks. I'm willing to listen to reason. However, as right now,
and I'm happy to adjust that rating as time goes on. But right now, I think we've made our point clear.
I hope so. I really hope
we haven't been obtuse.
Yes. All right. Well, I've been Paul.
I've been Brian.
See you, folks.